why do you think that water management is, even after the whole AI boom that India has gotten, why is it still so under digitalized and underfunded?
And the whole economics of water has been absent in India.
I think I see you frequently talking a lot about water intelligence layer that you were trying to build on top of Dhaara. Could you tell us a little bit more about what does the water intelligence layer mean? When you talk about water economy, I mean, how does that contribute to, let's say, making it more robust?
So National Green Tribunal has decided that we'll make groundwater abstraction tariff driven. So intelligence is slightly even far away. As a country, we are still struggling with even one layer below it.
All right. Hi, today we're with the co-founder of Kritsnam Technology. Kritsnam is building India's water intelligence layer. It is combining indigenous sensors, IoT connectivity, and deep analytics to give enterprises accurate real-time visibility into every drop they use. This is the foundational infrastructure that water has been missing for years, and Kritsnam is doing just that. So let's just sort of deep dive with Harsha to understand how they are going about it. So, hi, Harsha.
Hi,
Firstly,
Dishti.
welcome. And again, we'll just start with maybe a basic introduction that you can start with, and then we can deep dive into
Yes,
what Kritsnam is building.
sure. Thank you, Dishti, for doing this and giving me the opportunity. As a background, I'm Harsha, founder of Kritsnam Technologies. I did my bachelor's and master's from IIT Kanpur in civil and water resource engineering. And company started as an extension of my master's thesis, where I realized that uh, across the globe we are going to need data-driven digital water management to de-risk ourselves from the growing gap between water demand and supply. So as part of that, it has been 10 years since we have been running the company.
Okay. Interesting. And firstly, I noticed that even within in your undergrad, you had civil again as your background, and within that, you were
Yes.
specializing in hydrology.
Yes.
Um, So you've been deeply interested in the zone from a very long time. Is
Yes.
it because you did specialize in hydrology, which is why you got into the field, or is it the other way around? You were always interested in these issues.
So I did hydrology because I wanted to solve. Water has been an important part of my life since I joined IIT Kanpur.
Mm-hmm.
So in third year, I had spiritual experiences in the bank of River Ganga,
Okay.
where a good amount of my fourth year and fifth year I have spent in Haridwar, Rishikesh, on the banks of River Ganga, and I thought I wanted to contribute uh, anything related to water at a large scale. Then, as a first step, I took my master's in hydrology. I always had an option to choose whatever subdomain until my fourth year. So, because of the spiritual quest that I had, I have taken my master's in water resources, and from there the journey started. When I took the when I did my master's, it became very obvious that the next step in water would be starting a company of my own rather than
Hmm.
doing a PhD or anything more academic in water. The water requires more a business oriented touch to solve its problems rather than a simple academic approach.
Right. And of course, I got a fair understanding of why you chose water as a problem and as an issue. It makes a lot of sense. Uh, So, if I were to look at how the infra is right now, um, what was or was there a moment where it became obvious that water data is what is missing when it comes to the foundation for sustainability?
Yes. See, as I mentioned, my heart was always on water because of the spiritual quest that I had, and
Okay.
while I did my thesis on how water resource engineering has evolved across the globe from 1930s till now. So I
Okay.
did a very comprehensive study of how world studied water, not just how India has studied water. And globally, from 1980s till now, the water has seen three major shifts. In 1980s, water was still managed using guesswork and outdated heuristics, and just then, hydrology as a science started evolving.
Okay.
And by early 2000s, modeling has hit water management in the academia, where large scale computing systems were used to design hydraulic systems, and water was managed as a one-time design decision. For example, a canal was built as per a certain design specification. They assumed that the entire operational continuity of that canal for over 50 years, 100 years followed the same design pattern, which was the state of the art at that point in time, 2000. That gave opportunity for large companies to come. But in 2010 to 13, globally, data-driven digital water management was taking shape, but only few academic institutions in the US were doing that. Essentially, it is about monitoring the water data in real time and utilizing that data to take near real-time decisions on water operations. So that was practically cutting edge in water. And by 2013, when I graduated, it became obvious that in India, for water to take its domain, we need to start solving the core problems in collecting the water data. And when I started that, initially worked with Central Water Commission. It is the body responsible for managing the entire India's river water data. And as part of my thesis, I had to collect few data points on how water level across the river fluctuates. So water level is nothing but the height of the surface of the water collected over a period of time with hourly intervals. And we got a large data set of past 50 years. And there were few missing data set from few particular years, and in few particular locations across the river Ganga. So I thought I'll manually go and collect them, visit their sites and collect the data by myself. So there were 8 stations that I had to visit. The first station that I went, I imagined that the river data is a national resource, is a national secure data set. So there must be sophisticated automated equipment to collect the data, store it, and transmit it. But I went there, I saw a 55-year-old person, and he has a very thick glasses, and he could not see to much longer distance. And when I met him, he said that he collects the data once or twice in a day, and that too, there is a manual post with that is a cement rod with manual gauging on it. It is almost 100 feet away. He's on the top of the bank, and he could not see it properly, but still he writes the data. And he says that rest of the day he knows how Gangaji behaves, and he writes the data accordingly. I thought this could be an anomaly, maybe one place, one location, it could be the way. That could be the situation. So I visited another location. I saw a small kid. He says that his father stays around 4 to 5 kilometers upstream. Every day he comes and collects the data for his father once or twice in a day. The rest of the time, his father manages the data on his own. And then all the 8 stations were in the same category. None of the places the people were collecting the data appropriately. During the times of flood, they call the guys upstream and write. So rather than managing water, we are managing water data, managing it, not collecting it. So this was a shock to me, because I thought water resources, as a pan India, we were developing models based upon that data. A huge amount of funding were given on to develop models on top of the data, and that is the quality of the data. Then I
Right.
went to irrigation department, drinking water management, industrial water resource management, and I saw that water data in India is all collected like this, and even in much more poor condition. So that was the realization that the baseline of water data collection itself has to be affected using technology.
No, actually, that's actually quite interesting. And again, two downstream application. Actually, if I'd say, yeah, two downstream applications of this is one. You look at the, of course, what the government is doing about it, which is like the public sector, and how this data sort of flows into building models, say like urban planning, etc. The second thing is, um, and something that I have found very interesting is that you, after obviously trying to solve this problem, also decide to venture into the private sector and
Oh,
say the water utilization there and how that is underreported, right? And I am assuming
yes.
that was the tie that you took. Like you saw a data problem, and then you probably extrapolated that that data problem, if it's existing here where
Mhm.
there is enough funding, I mean, imagine
Mm.
how how bad the situation would be in a private sector where it is a under
Mm.
incentivized to report data. And again, people had no real incentive, at least back in the day, to
Right.
even report the accurate data. So I think but coming back to again what you mentioned, Why do you think that water management is, even after the whole, I would say, the AI boom that India has gotten, why is it still so under digitalized and underfunded as a
Right.
problem?
Essentially, it is because water was never priced. See, it's a while we all call river Ganga as Mother Ganga. See the fact of river Ganga being the most polluted and most abused river system. Something that we pray for, uh, an entity that we pray for, both religiously and spiritually, and care for, and call it lovingly as Mother Ganga. But still, the real state is that it is the most abused entity, in one among the top 10, in one of the top 10 most abused rivers in the world. So this is the reality of the country. While the technology growth has scaled very fast in various other domains, both in hardware, AI, computational analytics, in many domains, but still in water management, we're at very early stages, because there is the whole economics of water has been uh, uh, absent in India, because water was never priced at all or priced right. So the if when a resource does not have economics driving its innovation, it is left to it is left to be rotten, unfortunately. And in your previous statement that I've seen the gaps in the government, but the journey to serve the private sector did not happen just like I wish I would have realized it back then in 2015. As a company, we took a lot of beatings to go there. We did serve the government sector. We did serve the public sector to get the water data, but there is no interest. There is no motivation. There is no incentive for public sector to manage the common resource that is water. Whenever there is no ownership to a resource, no one wants to take accountability to it. The sad state of water is also rooted in that. For example, rivers. Who is the owner of a river or a particular pond or a lake? There is no accountable body. There is no governance structure that is driving the security of the water resource in India today. It is a shared resource, and so it is no one's responsibility to manage it. That is why we are here, even after AI revolution. We are talking about 20 years, 30 years back technology in water, and still not able to do even basic things that are required.
Um, just to follow up on this, you said that you started with the government sector, or the public sector, and you started by catering to them. But I'm assuming eventually you found your positioning in, again, the right
Mm,
places, catering to the private sector, and of course, solving the reporting and
mm,
reporting problem as of now, of course, reporting, visualization, and of course, overall the whole value chain.
right.
But when we talk about the public sector, could you tell me what essentially did not work out there? Because isn't water fundamentally a government problem? See, government acts as the custodian of water. So why aren't they the primary custodians, or sorry, the primary users of solutions like Kritsnam, right?
Mm.
Why do you think that is?
See, this is what even I thought when I started it. So the government is the primary custodian. As a custodian, the responsibility of managing the water is the top priority. And so when we develop technology, for example, we started with radar-based water level sensors. Back when the entire water data in India is collected using manual data, and there are only very few equipments that collect the data automatically. For example, if you want to do flood forecasting, you need data coming automatically every 10 minutes, not you do it backwards after a month or 2 months collected by manual resource that is not usable by the modeling. Now, if you want to do any kind of modeling on rivers on canals to do uh, uh, mm, things like flood forecasting or inundation prediction, for example, if heavy rainfall happens, how much area will get submerged, and how to do predictive analysis on top of it. All of it is depend upon the quality of the data. So we started with developing our own radar-based water level sensor. It's the most best-in-class technology. There are no Indian manufacturers. We import it from foreign countries. Even though we have the departments have bought them, but almost 80 to 90% of them were dysfunctional because these equipments were made in early 2000s. They require heavy, big solar panel and a big lead acid battery. And as soon as these deployments in the public space with lead acid battery or an open solar panel, they're stolen. And after that, neither the vendor nor the department is responsible. So the devices stay idle, and the companies who built it in their country, in their countries, having a solar panel or a battery is not an issue, so they never solved for it. So there was no innovator solving for Indian problem statement. So with that, we were encouraged to develop our own IP on radar based water level sensing. It's that is one. Second, we made the device run on batteries for 5 to 8 years without requiring any solar panel. So that solved the entire theft problem. Then we deployed it across river Ganga at multiple locations, and we contributed to the Central Water Commission. In fact, 2018 Uttarakhand flash floods, our devices have contributed. Hindu Business Line has published about our work on the front page in that year. But now, having this automated data also questions the validity of the manual data that has been collected over past 50 years. See, the data doesn't match because manual data is prone to errors always. And when you, and for the same area, if you see, if any user sees that this is the machine data and this is the manual data, and they see the discrepancies between both of it, and they would not want to use the rest of the manual data at all for the past 50 years that was collected. It question, so it's a, so moving from from where they are today, uh, satisfactorily collecting the manual data record, keeping the record of it, to a, a machine generated data which questions their entire 50-year data collection, is a huge risk. And why would they want to do that? See, the government machinery doesn't work on merit. It works on it. The incentivization there is different altogether. For example, iPhone evolved because users liked it and they paid for it, and it fueled the R&D, and the technology evolution has happened. Here, governments always fear sudden change, transformations, because it will question the status quo. It will disrupt everything that is already in place. That's a for an engineer, for an officer who has to retire in few years, it's a too much of a risk for him to take. So the government machinery does not incentivize technology per se. It only takes actions during crisis, and only in good crises the government infrastructure improves to the next stage. Unfortunately, that was not the scene. The crisis was not enough, whatever was the situation. So even after we brought the hardware cost from 8 to 9 lakhs to 25,000, that is a substantial reduction in cost, so that we thought that the adoption would be much higher. And we solved the practical problem of devices being stolen or broken because of these solar panels. Our devices are 10 times smaller in size and does not have any solar panels, and demonstrating its use cases for over many years, being recognized by public and in the national newspaper on the front page. Still, we could not capture the market or even go further than the first pilot deployments, is because the threat it poses to the disruption of the existing system as it is. That is the problem with any government system. And
Right.
yeah,
No, no, of course. I mean, that makes a lot of sense because they've taken so many policy decisions on top of the pre-existing data. So now to retrospectively go and
Mm.
compare would actually require them to make a lot of changes and make them really fast, and would actually undermine a lot of the assumptions on the basis of which some
Very
decisions
much. And
were
because
taken.
this data will be open to everyone, the
Yeah,
public will question.
yeah,
So not only their own policy decision making, but the scrutiny of the public will also fall on them,
right,
and which they might want to do that at a right time, but that right time is a crisis,
right.
ideally. They don't have any other option.
Okay, but I had a follow-up question, and I'm going to tie that to the private sector because I think that is one of the primary,
Yeah.
I would say, customers at the moment for Kritsnam. Just to give context to everybody watching, as to let's just discuss about the current product, which is Dhara, that you've built. What does it do? How are the sensors different? If you could give us like a chronological development of
Mhm.
Dhara. what they were earlier, what they are now? Who do you cater to? Just to set context of what the business does at the moment before I move on to the next question.
Okay. So I'll give a brief evolution of how Dhaara has come to life. Uh, so in 2018, the government radar-based water level sensors didn't work for us, and at the same time, we received grant from Department of Science and Technology, Department of Scientific and Industrial Research (DSAR) to develop ultrasonic-based open channel flow measurement. It's a canal. When water flows in the canal, it's we got a project to develop sensors that can track the total quantum of water that is flowing through a open channel canal, like 5 meter, 10 meter wide. And, uh, and during the same period, out of my own quest for understanding what to do next in water as the government sector is not working out, I walked along River Ganga for 930 kilometers from Farakka to from Gangasagar to Farakka, then Haridwar to all four dhams, and then Haridwar to Allahabad, all on walk without money. The idea is that you spend time with the stakeholders on ground and see how they have been interacting with the river systems and water in general. And did for 90 days. The realization was that the core realization is that we don't have carrot and stick. Say the hell and heaven, the behavior change, the if if we have to work towards behavioral change in water, you need to have uh, both incentives in the form of uh, penalizing the bad actors and rewarding the good actors. Unless you have a system framed in this manner, uh, you you cannot you cannot choicefully promote certain behavior over the other. That's what is the problem with the water. So we then I realized that the water in India requires a framework of rewarding sustainability or good actions in water and punishing the bad actions through regulations. So we worked closely with the national government, and there was an opportunistic time where 2020 NGT, National Green Tribunal, was coming up with a regulation on controlling the groundwater abstraction in India. Groundwater is the one of the most exploited resource. You know that it takes 10,000 years for water to go there, and we deplete it in 10 years or less than 10 years, and the water is gone, and you cannot replenish it anymore. And groundwater is being depleted at a very rapid rate that threatens the drinking water supply to majority of the population. For example, a lot of villages depend on hand borewell or hand pump, right? They will be at 50 feet, 60 feet, 70 feet. Suddenly the water level drops below the 70 feet. The entire water infrastructure in that entire village is gone. So on a single month, the village will move from water sufficient to zero water. You see, uh, making the hand pumps go deeper is a significant money investment into and it's a new infrastructure. So a lot of the 80% of the population do with less than 100 rupees a day depend upon these kind of freshwater resources and very traditionally invested infrastructure to get fresh water like hand pumps. But because of the rapid depletion, the fundamental right of this population is being threatened. So National Green Tribunal has decided that we'll make groundwater abstraction tariff driven, like how surface water is charged with some amount of tariff, not much, but some. The groundwater, they thought that we'll start with tariff so that things will start coming in, things will start aligning themselves. So, and they released a regulation that says that all commercial borewells in India has to be regularized. And regularized means they have to, if you fall under commercial entity, that means who draws more than 10 kiloliters of water per day, you need to register your borewell, regularize it, and install tamper-proof smart water meters on top of it and pay bills. This is a national opportunity that has come, and we contributed to it very actively from starting to the launch of the regulation. And we saw that we developing ultrasonic based open channel flow meter. So we use the same technology to develop pipe water flow meter. So back then the water flow meters are only mechanical and electromagnetic. Mechanical meters are the ones with it's a simple it's a rotor. If water goes inside a pipe, the rotor rotates and it generates a reading. But that is even airflow also generates a reading. So but that is the majority of the water measurements in India are done through those mechanical meters, air, and if there is sediments in it, especially all the groundwater has sediment, they get stuck and there is a pressure loss. So people remove that meter and run the system. That was a traditional dyeing technology. And then there is electromagnetic, which are used for industry automation, requires continuous power supply. It is used for process maintenance in industry. But there are no flow tracking devices for water per se, targeted for water. People are using either electromagnetic as a force fit or mechanical meters. In electromagnetic, you need to give continuous power supply, and you need and the meters are separate, and the telemetry or the it's like early 2000s. If you wanted a smartphone, someone combining a landline to a computer and said that it is a smartphone. It is the systems are equivalent to that. So we
Right.
thought it is an opportunity to innovate. So we developed Dhaara Smart. It is a Dhaara means flow. It's a product. It's a ultrasonic based smart water meter. Globally, around less than dozen companies have their own core IP on ultrasonic measurement, using ultrasonic technology to measure the water flow. We developed it in house, and we made it inherently smart that it is battery operated. It runs on again 8 years on battery. It automatically collects the data and transmits it to our cloud server, so that it keeps an account. It does the bookkeeping of the water transactions. So then, using this regulation as an opportunity, we started deploying our water meters across multiple locations within India. But evolving a hardware is very hard. If you see, there is very few companies in India survived or delivered a world-class product, a reliable, smart hardware in India. Very few, a handful, even less than a handful of the companies. And and unlike other hardware products which are used in a good environment, water meters are kept at very open weathers, harsh weathers. It is sometimes submerged in bad waters. So the device has to be extremely robust. So it took from 2000 to 2022-23 for us to stabilize the product on field, to bring the lab scale technology to a really workable product on the field. Because unlike software, you ship a product and fix the bug later. Hardware, you cannot do that. For example, a company as reputed as a Godrej, if they deploys it on their main line, if something happens to the meter, then the whole factory production facility has to shut down and replace the meter. It's a lot of painful activity.
Hmm.
So we did that. We invested a lot of money and people time into it, and evolve the product to be in a very stable manner. And today we have over 15,000 bulk water monitoring points. We are tracking over 2 billion liters of water per day. Essentially, in this process, we realized that the market that we are trying to cater is not really water conservation, but because water conservation is a new behavior. In our entire journey of 10 years, we realized that whenever you want to give out a new behavior, it's a very hard journey. If you, out of 1,000 people, if I ask who wants to save water, uh, practically no one would raise their hand. Maybe
Correct.
if you raise it, then 10 more people will raise it out of public shaming, but otherwise no one would want to do that. So we realized that but trillions of water being transacted every day.
Yeah.
There is a already an existing behavior of water transactions,
Hmm.
from tanker to you, or a utility to you, or an industry, or a groundwater to you. So there's a transaction of water between two entities. Can we make the transaction more trustworthy by adding by adding our tech stack? So our flow meters now then help groundwater transactions more trustworthy, being the middleware between the groundwater departments of the state and the end users in regularizing their groundwater abstraction on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, got it. Understood. Very clear. Thank you so much for explaining, Dhara. But just to sort of double tap on that, in terms of product, you've also so firstly, can we discuss a little bit more about what does your full stack look like? When you go from, so we're talking IoT plus an intelligence layer on top of that you've built, right? Now, given that you started off with Dhara, but now I think I see you frequently talking a lot about water intelligence layer that you were trying to build on top of Dhara,
Yes.
which is again hardware, and
Mm.
hardware which is IoT that you're building. Could you tell us a little bit more about what does the water intelligence layer mean?
Mhm.
When you talk about water economy, you've just said let's talk about that as a separate economy. How does that contribute to, let's say, making it more robust?
Right. Great question. So before going into intelligence, see, intelligence stands on top of standardized data set. So intelligence is slightly even far away. As a country, we are still struggling with even one layer below it. Um, so say the three essential layers to do to reach intelligence. One is you need hardware layer, very core hardware layer that is collecting, that is about sensing reliably and transmitting it. And then there is a dashboard layer, backend database management and dashboard visualization layer. On top of it is a um, standardization layer of the data. For example, now imagine you have 100 borewells in a locality. Some are collecting and everyone are transacting, extracting the water, and you want to build intelligence on top of the water abstractions that are happening on a day-to-day basis. Now there are some are using mechanical meters, some are using electromagnetic, some are using ultrasonic, some are calibrated. Calibration is the how good your data quality is. If the calibration is bad, instead of 100, it will report 80. So the data goes meaningless. So some are calibrated yesterday, some are calibrated 1 year back, some are calibrated 10 years back, some are not calibrated. Some are functioning on that day, some are not functioning on that day. Some have uh, some have got device infrastructure repair on the particular day for a few days, and then they manually recorded the data. And some have put a very poor installation which gives 20% inaccurate reading. Some have put very good installation plus or minus 2%. And there are 100 more factors that influence the outcome. Now you have a group of systems that are giving you the data, each coming with different quality. Then how do you build intelligence on top of it without having the understanding of variations in each one? So there comes the standardization layer. Like for example, the whole internet is built on TCP/IP protocol. Like anyone wants to, so they said that if you want to connect to a common system, then your data has to come in this format, this header, this footer, in this structured manner. Then that's how they standardize the in layer on top. Like you need an OS, standardized OS, to have apps running on it, intelligent apps. So previously, when the phones had Nokia had Symbian OS, Samsung had their own OS, Motorola had their own OS. There was no common apps that are being developed because there is no standardization layer on the hardware and OS. Once Apple and Android has standardized that layer across different hardware, then apps started coming out. Apps is nothing but intelligence. In a similar way, in water, currently the data that is being collected across the country is all filled with plagued with extreme amount of variations, and there is no standardization layer that can be that that resolves all these differences and helps people to build intelligence on top of it. In a very broad sense, the so that's why we built our own standard called water receipt and water ledger. So there is a infrastructure layer which is devices. Dhaara Smart, Dhaara Live is our dashboard where people can see and visualize the same raw data. That is the meter data. Second is the water receipt and water ledger. So the same like how fintech does, like how UPI has transformed the money transactions between two people, and it issues a unique receipt ID, unique UPI ID. UPI ID says that the transactions between from Harsha to Drishti at this particular point in time, be from this bank to this bank at this particular rate. So it captures all the information. That's why instead of your earlier way of you giving it to bank and bank giving it to them, the UI has become so smooth as you giving it, I giving it to you, because of the standardization of that layer. In the same way, the water transactions, there is no standardization. The meter data doesn't mean uh, that much amount of water has gone there. So we built a standardization layer called water receipts that takes whatever be the raw infrastructure driven data from the meters. It standardizes it in a format that is scalable, and build and push it in the form of a, like how you have a bank account statement, like that there will be a water accounting statement called water ledger. So the inefficiencies in metering doesn't get translated to the standard of water ledger. Then comes intelligence. Now water ledger has taken care of all the variations within the instrumentation, and it has standardized it, smoothened it out like a protocol. then the intelligence layer sits on it. Now, intelligence layer, what does it do? Like, it takes the historical data of water usage and the metadata, such as from what meter, from what kind of borewell it is collected, whether it is a semi-critical, critical, overstressed area, it is a pumping based or it is a gravity based. It has a lot of other data than just the total flow, and then it it contextualizes the water data and give insights such as uh, what is the normal behavior, what behavior is beyond normal. For example, as a factory or as a production facility, there is a normal behavior of your water usage. Every day you take this much amount of input in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, and there is a and that behavior is normalized. And whenever there is a behavior beyond normal that happens, it immediately detects as anomaly, and it classifies it into whether it is a bad situation, good situation, in bad, what kind of bad situation it is, and then it gives it out. So this is the intelligence layer. But eventually, in a long run, if you see 10 years down the line, what does this intelligence layer give across meters deployed in the country is a uh, a dynamic pricing to the water. So today, water is not priced also because we don't have any quantification of water distribution across various sector. It will help our country to come up with a dynamic pricing based upon the value and risk associated with water quantum. So these in a 10 year down the line, this intelligence layer across the country will help us put a correct value to water, so that eventually we are incentivized to manage the water better.
That's quite interesting, actually. I never thought about what the end state of having a standardized operating system, or let's say an intelligence layer. What does it mean uh, in terms of, say, economics, and in terms of say monetization and monetary value, right? We always end the thought with having a decision layer or having an intelligence layer on top of, say, basics of data collection software, etc. The goal is to have a intelligence layer, but I think you've gone a step ahead and actually made it make sense as to why and how that intelligence layer will how government and, let's say, other entities will be monetized or will be incentivized to move on that decision making or that intelligence layer, because in the end it will serve and add some value by
Yes.
adding some system to the chaos, right?
Yes.
uh, so actually that's
Otherwise, rest is all cosmetic. Like,
yeah.
if I say, if I help in decision making, the value addition is only there is a value addition, but as long as the water in itself is not valued in economic terms, in
Hmm.
terms of its pricing, the value of the such a assistive intelligence, what we call that intelligence as AWI, assistive water intelligence,
Hmm.
has no great value. It is exciting to talk about it, but it doesn't drive purchase, because water in itself is so cheap.
Hmm.
Then why do I want my decisions to be intelligent? Even non-intelligent decisions doesn't really affect me in any manner.
So at the moment, if you were to classify your business, would you call yourself, let's say, is it a sensor company, is it a data company, or is it a decision intelligence company?
So we had our the next 5 years, we have did this journey. We have done this journey. We For the first 5 years of our company, we were sensor company,
Yeah.
and second 5 years, the last 5 years was more of a data and dashboard uh, company, and now we are evolving into the water receipt or water ledger based company. See, the India and world per se is not ready for intelligence in water yet. Intelligence is only a it's is that shining object that it's good to have but not necessary. What is necessary is a digital accounting standard for water transactions. So as an enterprise, or as an enterprise, imagine I'm taking water from tankers, from groundwater, from surface water, from utility, from pond, etc., and then I'm utilizing it across my departments, or I'm a RWA, Resident Welfare Association, taking water and distributing it to my apartments or my villa communities. The bare minimum that people want to do is a dispute proof, audit safe water accounting. It's like almost 50 years back, when financial accounting was done on book, everything was on book, then moved to a proper financing system, right? Now you do balance sheets every year, you submit balance sheets, you do quarterly reporting, and you publish MIS for people to see your data. The same way, now the water recording and water accounting is taking the standardization. And the core principles of the standardization is water receipt and water ledger that I mentioned. And today we are a digital water accounting company, building standards and best practices in water accounting. That's it. It's a very boring and unsexy work, but unfortunately, this is where we are today. If you offer anything more than that, it is not business viable, not really acceptable.
Got it. Um, and but I feel like from the end state that you just described, right? That we are trying to have a digital accounting standard, right? I think it's easier to do it when it comes to a lot of newer technologies, or when you go solely towards software, because there are a lot of private players. So the suppliers and the consumers both are private entities, right? In your case, the problem becomes slightly more complex because let's say there are some digital standards that Kritsnam tries to create. A lot of them will have to be enforced by the government, and there has to be some incentivization for water accounting. um, and for that, I think government is the player that can move private companies. I don't think other than I would say tariffs, there is any other way. Like you said, the carrot and the stick approach, right? Other than stick, I don't think there is any other way to
Mm,
move corporations to to care about digital like adequate, like accounting, etc., and agency and accountability for water usage.
yeah.
So
So
what?
the
Hmm.
see, we have waited for that. It will take way too long for government to for us to wait for government to create a good ecosystem where the accounting is valued. Uh, that you will grow old, I'll grow old. There is no guarantee that things will change. See, but we do see some core pockets of opportunity which are not really government driven. For example, tanker water. Now, every day you receive, let's say you are an apartment complex who typically any decent sized apartment complexes spend around 8 to 10 lakh rupees per month on tankers. And for example, Bangalore, Maneta Tech Park, if you heard about it, they they have 30 tanker intake points and they take large amount of tanker water, and that's a huge economics. And when tanker water comes, let's say if you are the facility manager, the tanker each tanker is 5,000 liters per se, and there's per kiloliter cost. While the cost is per kiloliter, you pay for a very abstract value of water. That the tanker comes, it puts the water into your tank, and you're not actually paying per kiloliter. Uh, you're you're paying to his confirmation that the tanker has really has that 5,000 liters. But in the
Hmm.
back of the mind of the person who is receiving the water always has this thought that, am I really receiving that water? Is the tank full? Is the tanker full? Is the tanker half empty? There is no way for you to know. The water transactions are being done with very vague information. If I am the society owner or if I am the facility manager, I want to pay only for the amount of water that I received, right? So, for example, in Maneta Tech Park, we put water meters across there. We digitized their water transaction point, and we found that every month they're paying 15 to 20% more than what they're supposed to pay as per kiloliter, because tankers are never full. Some tankers are full, some tankers are half empty, some tankers are three-fourth full, and tanker guys are getting away with it because there is no way to prove,
Validate. Yeah.
validate it. So
Correct.
now this is a system which is between two private entities. It is a
Hmm.
trust-based system. Now building trust into this transaction makes the business more trustworthy for both the entities. Even though tanker companies show restriction initially because the faults are being unveiled, but eventually it builds a more recognizable trust among both the parties for a more long-term trust. That is one. So, for example, now RWS, a villa communities, you are not there at home, but still you have to pay for the water. Now, whoever is using tanker or costlier water, the average bill is from 3,000 to 8,000 rupees. Whenever you are not there at home, still you have to pay 3,000 to 8,000. It's a painful thing. Now they want accounting to be done on how much water is really being transferred to them on a day-to-day basis. So that is a market that is opening up now within an enterprise. A enterprise and on outside it looks like, for example, a Coca-Cola or a Godrej or or any large plant, Saint Gobain, um, there is always a utility team which is about managing in the water that they receive, and their job is to distribute that water to various departments within that entity. For example, a Coca-Cola plant will have 8 different beverages being produced in one particular facility. Now each beverage has their own different production owner, who has their own different KPIs. Now the water has to be supplied in a sufficient quantity, each one of them, and every day they go through fights, they go through disputes, because they say that they require this much amount of water. Finally, whether that much amount of water being supplied or not, there is no validation. Same in RWA, same in tanker. So now the utility departments want to have a more trustable system where the water that is being supplied to them is registered somewhere and it is dispute proof. At the end of the day, if they say that I've distributed out of 100, 10 to you, 5 to you, 8 to you, 7 to you, 10, 15 to you, then it should not be disputed again on top of it. So they want such trustworthy system. So this is where these are the specific opportunities which does not require government intervention yet, and these are contributing to the overall very similar opportunity where you are accounting and digitizing your water for a purpose of dispute free, audit safe uh, water accounting and water tracking. Now, there are programs like CDP, Carbon Disclosure Program. A lot of companies by default do it. It's not really a regulation, but it's a voluntary thing. But as part of it, you need to have your water accounting. The third party external auditor comes and sees your data, and when it is not done in the right manner, you'll see that the data is very very badly organized in Excels. And one day the data is high, one day water usage is high, another day it is low, and there is no way you can tally it. It's like as if you're seeing hundreds of handwritten bills and try to make a balance sheet out of it. It is very hard. And now, because it's becoming a practice for them to report the data, even for non-regulatory requirements, it makes sense for them to invest in a simple water accounting. It's not water saving or conservation or anything like that. A simple water accounting as a standardized best practice. If you are a company who believes in good governance, this becomes part of good governance for their own internal bookkeeping, audit safe, and dispute proof water accounting. So there are opportunities where it doesn't require government intervention. Definitely, government intervention will accelerate it, but we cannot wait for it. So if we can develop the best practices and inculcate the habit in these naturally available opportunity, I think when government do their job, when they open their eyes and realize that they have to do it, they'll do it, and this will scale.
And if we were to talk about, I would say some numbers, what do you think is the addressable market currently, given that where the government interventions are at the moment? What do you think is the addressable market size?
See, globally, it's a $50 billion per annum market. In India, it is estimated that by 2027-28, it will become around $2 to $3 billion per year market.
Okay, understood. Okay, that's very helpful. And secondly, I just wanted to understand that is water efficiency become a business priority or not yet, or how far do you think that is from becoming a priority or even coming into the consideration zone?
I think the water efficiency as a priority is coming only in the form of sustainability to a certain extent, and uh, and also one. As of today, as it is not a priority. For example, when we go to enterprises, we do a survey called WISE, Water Insight Survey for Efficiency, and we come up with a true cost of water, TCW. There's a buyer standard, BIES standard, that helps you calculate that let's say your raw water cost is 100 rupees per KL, and then there's a treatment cost, and then distribution cost, and then a retreatment reuse cost. So there's the entire water cycle within your facility has a total cost, and you derive it back as true cost of water. And when we show the true cost of water, rather than 40 rupees per per kiloliter, it comes out to be 250 rupees per kiloliter. Then it makes economic sense for people to who be efficient in water, because someone who is spending a crore or 2 crore, 3 crore per year, a simple 10% reduction will yield a saving of 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs per annum. It's a decent size. It's not a very exciting saving, but a decent size saving. So in that way, the efficiency is thought through. And for few companies, the production quality depends upon water efficiency, delivery efficiency, but that is very minimal. But otherwise, broadly, it is not a business value yet. Accounting is what we believe is the next business value, not yet the efficiency or intelligence or near real time decision support system to them is not yet there.
Got it. Understood. Right. I mean, eventually the goal is to create a safe, secure. If I were to give an UPI, like you said, UPI-like environment in context of, say, the water economy. And also wanted to understand a little bit more about your pricing. How do you currently price the sensors? Is it a one-time cost, or do you have tiered pricing when you say sensors plus data plus I would say intelligence? How does the pricing work?
So we moved. We've done a pivot recently, and previously it was a sensor cost. Let's say 50,000. The usually sensors cost depending upon the size of the sensor, from small pipe diameters to very large pipe diameters in industry. And it's a hardware cost, one time hardware cost, and there's a subscription cost of our software. Typically 500 rupees per month per device to run the software for both analytics and water accounting. That was our previous pricing model, but we realized that this market is stagnant because people are throwing hardware at them, and there is no, for example, the country has no BIS standard for smart metering. Now there is a small group who's working with BIS to develop the standard, and we are part of it, and and we are driving that. But if you come up with a you come up with a hardware, bring from China, rebrand it, and we come and we both go to the customer, and if the customer is a new customer who hasn't used our product, there is there is no validation method by which I can prove that my technology is superior to you or my device is more reliable than you. There is no way until customer takes the product, burns his hand, and then learns from it. So that is stopping the market adoption altogether. So and very a lot of non-serious players just importing and cannot provide, it is technologically significantly inferior but still claiming the same. There is no way for you to know it. Algorithms, how your algorithms work, no one can come dissect and see whether your algorithm is superior or not. So so that's why now we have moved to a one-time cost that is about setting up the hardware for you. Instead of that 50,000 and 6,000, your one time you pay me 7,000 for setting up that hardware. ABL, as per an ISO standard, calibration and installation design as per ISO. It's a standard driven engineering and uh, engineering and commissioning service, one time cost. And then there is a recurring monthly cost. So the cost of the meter is never really sold. The hardware is never really, we don't sell. The hardware remains in our book, and people pay for the water ledger and water receipts. So the receipts become the product, not the hardware is now invisible to them. Now we
Okay.
own the hardware, we take care of the hardware for lifetime. So now if you are an enterprise, now you don't have to think about which meter should I buy, which is good, which is not good. If I buy the wrong meter, what are the consequences of it? Will I get demoted? So all the pain of managing, maintaining a hardware is taken away. You directly pay for the outcome of water receipts and your water ledger.
Got it. Got it. That's actually an interesting model in this space. I don't think I can't find an equivalent, but I'm sure in other industries. But I think this is an interesting model. It takes away a lot of
For
the
example, Pine Labs. Pine
yeah.
Labs.
Hmm.
So when we were speaking with Lokvir, founder of Pine Labs,
Yeah.
he also has gone through a similar thought process where the end POC machines that the Pine Lab gives, initially they were selling it, and then they realized that maintaining of that hardware and then is too complex for the end user. So they give the hardware free of cost, and they charge per transaction or subscription. So the hardware belongs to them. So the fintech has seen this kind of a this direction.
Yeah. It works. Yeah, it works well for them. That's actually quite interesting. Now, so this model seems to be yeah, the model seems to, I think, can definitely work well. Could you tell us a little bit more about the product in general? So I know there is a hardware, of course, and then there is, I would say, I'm not sure if it's real time. Are you doing telemetry, or is it end of a certain? I would say after end of a certain frequency or at a certain frequency that the data goes back to into the cloud.
It's an IoT driven product, but the data, the sensor is operational 10 times a second. Every 100 milliseconds collects the data.
Okay.
And then that is the sensor layer. And the data logging, so the calculation of the total flow and all of it happens at that sub-second interval. The data collection happens every 15 minutes or 1 hour, depending on the application. And data transmission happens once in a day or thrice in a day, depending on the application. So you get hourly data at the end of 8 hours or 1 day, depending on what you require.
And that data is shared with the relevant stakeholder
Reverse
in.
stakeholder, yes. The data goes to the backend and it gets cleaned, refined, layered, and goes it in a form that is usable to them. It also passes to the standard of water receipt. So raw data. So it's like now a lot of the AI models cannot use the data as it is as a raw. The data has to be structured, contextualized,
Right.
boxed, framed. So in that way, our water receipt does that work exactly. It's a so that it makes the raw data machine analyzable. So it does all of it and gives it to the end user. Our devices has inbuilt SIM cards, two SIM cards. These are not normal SIM cards. These are M2M SIM cards. So there is an intelligence that within the device that sees whichever network has highest signal in that particular area. It connects to it, sends the data, and then sleeps. We need the system to run in this three mode of data collection, data logging, data transmission, because to run the devices on battery for 5 to 8 years, for example, the same cellular network, your phone dies in 2 days even if you don't use, right? But our systems have to run without external power supply for 8 years. How do you do that? So we have a patent around, multiple patents around this, on how do you architecture a system so that it does various functions at different modes and lives up to 8 years in doing its work.
Okay, that's quite. Is that a differentiating? Is that what
Yeah,
what?
it is. It is. All the existing products in the market are all external power supply. So you
Okay,
need long wiring because water pipes are not really in a very conducive environment, and you do not have wiring possibility. And wiring is prone to rat cuts, or
right.
any voluntary, involuntary mishaps in it. So our devices are fully battery operated. That's one of the. So today we have around 2,500 clients across India, very reputed enterprises who really don't touch any new products. They're very scared of that, of the operational failure. But the reason why we are able to capture them is because of really uh, differentiated offering of our product compared to anyone else in the market. And power is one of it.
Hmm. And just maybe the last one or two questions. Uh, Again, coming back to the landscape and then of course the business model, is Kritsnam, is it bootstrapped, or did you at any point during the tenure of the company take any form of funding or government funding or let's say
Hmm.
private funding?
We moved through this cycle. So for the first 5 years, when we worked on river and canal, it was not fundable by anyone. So we raised government grants. In Kritsnam, we have raised around 3 crores of grants, and along with IIT Kanpur, we raised around another 11 crores. So total 14 crores of grants we have raised. And then in 2020, when we moved to B2B market, we raised funding from angels. We raised around $3.5 million
Hmm.
from different angels.
Okay.
Then now again we are bootstrapped. We came back, we utilized that funding, put it into the R&D, and now we are in a bootstrapped cycle where we are making ourselves more efficient with respect to the cash usage. And next year we'll be going to a $8 to $10 million round very soon. We
Okay.
see, yeah.
But within this area, when we let's say talk about IoT or deep tech or hardware, especially catering to utilities, um,
Mm,
uh, how is the funding market there? How is the capital
mm.
market looking like? Is there more traction, less traction than what you observed, I would say, a couple of years ago?
Zero.
Okay.
See, very unfortunate. See, my peers who are running, my batchmates, my friends who are running company, they're able to raise 100 million, 60 million, 70 million in other domains. Um, to raise 5 million, 6 million in water is like a big feat. The high. I don't think anyone in water has raised it. We are the first ones to show that water domain can take investments. The other players in the water who has recently raised have all showed our Kritsnam's journey as an evidence that the investors are ready to invest in water. The hard work is more. See, the investing community doesn't know about this market. This market is not uh, is not open to everyone. It's not visible
Hmm.
for people to see the opportunity. We have to explain it to them, show the evidences. It's a very tough job to educate the investors, to educate them about this market opportunity that exists within the market, and ask them to be patient, mean all the way while expecting the returns is a very 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 tough job. Um, so I don't think that and readily available investments in this sector is all on water treatment.
Yeah.
The water market, the entire investments in water market is all about water treatment. The
Hmm.
last 20 years, water treatment has taken substantial growth, and companies have demonstrated the outcomes. And that is the reason the investments have flown into water treatment, but not in tracking, intelligence, water management. This is not yet being investable. Only few visionaries. If you see the investors in our company, they're all founders themselves, like Mr. BVR Mohan Reddy, founder of Scient Infotech, $2 billion
Hmm.
engineering services company. Basa Pradhan, who's chairman of Coforge. Kunal Shah from Cred.
Right.
Sai Srinivas from MPL Gaming.
Right.
Ashish from who previously founded Jungly.com,
Hmm.
got an exit from Amazon, has purchased them. So these are all the founders themselves
Yeah.
who saw a emerging opportunity and have invested in it. But not VCs have it's not a ready-made opportunity for VCs.
Right. Now, of course, I mean, I understand. I understand the space is slightly different, but I think it has a lot of scope, and I think the reason why it's going into um, chemical treatment, etc., is because the penalization is more the problem. I would say at the moment, according to government categorization, is far more pressing, and the governments have. I mean, we as people, corporations, including everybody around us, they tend to be more perceptive to problems that are reactive than taking the proactive solutioning approach, which is changing now, of course. Um,
Right.
but as a use case, do you see yourself becoming a data company at some point? Because with the data that you have access to and that eventually you could get access to, there could be a lot of plug and play that can happen. There could be a lot of downstream applications that are built
Yeah.
on top of the data that Kritsnam sort of builds. But of course,
Yes.
there's a bunch of privacy regulations, etc., mandates around that. But do you see that as a potential use case, or is that a route forward?
In fact, yes. So we see ourselves as a platform company today. So AI becoming so accessible and so easy to build as a tech, we feel that a lot of new entrant innovators will come in this domain, and they would want to play around any domain specific data. Now, what AI lacks today is a very verticalized, clean data sets,
Absolutely.
which are domain specific and
Correct.
actionable. Now, the hard work is in assimilating the data, curating it to a level where it is utilizable by the AI models as it is, without having to going through the another cleaning layer. So the water receipts and water ledger, what I was mentioning, is a readily ingestible data in a format that is readily ingestible by the AI models. So we envision ourselves to be the platform drivers who maintains the infrastructure of hardware and data collection and data assimilation, so that others can stand on our shoulders and build more viable companies. This seems to be our meaning of our work today. That's how we see ourselves as being a platform company who, not really data per se. Data is a raw data, the machine generated data, but more of a standardized, protocolized, structured data set on water that could be, for example, I'm Godrej and I have the Godrej data sets assimilated, structured in water receipts and water ledger. Then they may choose any other provider that they want to come to our platform, analyze the data in using AI models, and give them the output.
Yeah.
Uh, so we become that open access layer, or not open access, say open access within a entity
Got it. Yeah.
layer as a platform, so that
Yeah.
people can utilize the data for AI modeling tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, that like I said, I think that's an interesting use case, and can follow. The last question is again fairly generic, but if you had to give some tips, maybe, or some one message to young founders who are building in non-obvious spaces,
Mm.
hard, complex problem statements in spaces that are not essentially pressing at the moment, things like utilities, urban planning. What is one message that you'd like to give them?
So there are learnings that has come from we've done the journey for 10 years. These domains require you to be persistent and patient. If you expect results too soon, you'll be disappointed. Now, I was disappointed, but still we kept running. See, for example, when I started the company back in 2015, very childishly, but I thought we'll be crossing $1 billion valuation within 3 to 4 years. Very childish to think now, but as an aspiration of an entrepreneur, you want to see the scale. Anyone who wants to who's starting, who wants to they want to see the scale in these kind of domains. The scale comes over a lot of hard work done over many years. You have to build the foundation layer, because foundation layers are not already built by someone for you. You have to lay those. You have to dig the soil, put the rail track, and then run the rail. Yeah, there is no ready-made rails for you to build super fast trains here. So that is one reality in these domains. One has to be prepared for a decade or 2 decade journey right from day zero. Then has to act accordingly. We wouldn't have done so many mistakes in our early days if you would have known that it is a 10-year journey. It's uh, a lot of decisions would have been different. That is one. One has to prepare for a long 10-year journey, 10 to 20-year journey if one wants to act on this domain. Second, it's okay to be mission driven, but business is business. Business is where there is a financial value. You deliver that financial value and get paid. The tech founders coming with a mission driven thought process confuse mission to business. Even we did that. We thought we tried to attempt water as a mission. That's what initially we one of the reasons why we went behind government, because government is a custodian. Why don't we help the primary custodian manage water better? But business doesn't work like that. You need to see where money flows, where money is already flowing, and be very careful about it and build systems that enhance the existing uh, pathways where money is already flowing, rather than trying to do a behavioral change right from day zero, or trying to achieve a critical mission from day zero. You will be exhausted too soon, and it will take too long a time. And keep the mission or vision as a 20-year or 15-year, 10-year outcome, not from day zero. Day zero, you focus on be pakka business guy. See how you can make money. Keep the direction, keep the mission direction there, but be very cutthroat towards business opportunities, and focus only on business opportunities, and preparing for a 10-year journey. This is the suggestion that this is the learning that I got from my own journey.
Thank you so much, Harsha. Thank you so much for taking out your time. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and I look forward to witnessing Kritsnam journey. Uh, yeah, that's all from
Thank you.
my end. Thank you
Thank you.
so